Hi, everybody. My name is Arik, and we're going to be talking about the Virgo season for 2024, and we're going to be talking about what's going on within Virgo. I'm not going to get too much into about Mercury retrograde, Mercury going direct, and the new moon and the lunar eclipse that's also happening during Virgo. I'll have different videos on that because I want to talk specifically what's going on within Virgo and what it means for all of us and how we can get through it. And I picked some really important transits that we need to talk about and that we need to go over so that we have a better context of what's going on. There's key dates, and also some of these transits are lasting for like all of Virgo season. So, in a nutshell, okay, this Virgo season is bringing up the parts within us that do not want to put in the effort, but is expecting the results. Okay? So there's a lot of transits going on this Virgo season that's bringing that up and teaching us about that, and also about the consequences that that has in all areas of our life. So if we stop doing our inner work, for example, if you are doing your inner work or whatever that is, if you stop doing the inner work, you will lose the outer work. And what I mean by outer work is like the material work. So as soon as you stop doing that, the material work is going to fade away, even if it was given to you before you started doing the inner work, because every professional, every artist, anyone who knows is successful with their work knows they reach a point where then they have to start doing the inner work to not only sustain it, but then to get to the next level. And this is absolutely what Virgo is about. Okay. So if you're not doing that, you're going to lose the outer work because the universe wants you to work on the inner stuff. And if you lose the outer work, there you start to slip with your purpose. And this is a law within the reality of like a human being. So we have to keep in mind that our actions can take us to any reality where, we might have 1 foot in the material realm and 1 foot in the, let's just call it the spiritual realm. And we're getting confused because we're a little bit split. We kind of want this, but we really want that. And we maybe think we have to do this in order to get that. And we get a little bit superstitious about it. But we're going to talk a lot about that as we are kind of going into this energy of Virgo. We are inaugurating the Virgo season, and it's amazing because it's really about, being able to understand that it's time to address those parts within us that seek results without putting in the necessary effort. Virgo values diligence, attention to detail, and personal responsibility. So Virgo season, that whole time we're moving out of Leo, we're getting into Virgo, and it's the last season just before the autumn equinox when everything is getting rebooted. So there's a huge emphasis on the importance of perseverance and that unwavering attention to detail. So this is really all about our efforts and what are our expectations from those efforts. So it's about shining light onto the fact that success, material success and spiritual success, it requires consistency. It requires dedication. It requires consistent dedication. So during Virgo, the whole season, from August 22nd to September 23rd, give or take, we should focus on completing what we have started. Whatever it is we've started, we have to think about completing it. And we kind of have to also honor our skills. What are we trained to do? What are our skills? And recognize that the true success is coming from that consistency or that sustained effort, not wishful thinking. You can have a lot of good ideas, but if you're not following through with it, it's not going to happen. And once again, that's the whole theme for this Virgo season, addressing all of those parts within us that do not put in the effort, but expect the results. So very, very, very interesting, because one of the transits that, okay, look at this chart of Virgo. All right, so this is like day one Virgo, and all of Virgo season, the entire season, we have Saturn is in opposition to the sun. So Saturn in Pisces is in opposition to the sun in Virgo. So there's like a big theme here for us. This opposition is directly challenging the parts of us that on one hand desire success without putting in the effort, okay? So like the laziness within us. But Saturn is the planet of discipline. It wants us to work hard, to really be responsible. And the sun in Virgo is emphasizing the need for the practical, detailed efforts that we have to do, like the steps that we need to take. So, but when these energies are in opposition, like for the whole month, and then you could say even longer, but at least definitely during Virgo season, it can bring up tension around where we are not living up to our responsibilities, or where we are expecting results without doing the necessary work. So this transit is highlighting the need to we got to step up and we have to take accountability. So, for example, you might have big dreams and you might have really big ambitions, but if you aren't willing to put in the consistent effort or to develop those skills that you need, and or to make the sacrifices, Saturn always needs a sacrifice. It needs a payment. Like if you want to manifest these things, it could be time, it could be energy, like that work that you need to do. Those dreams are just going to remain dreams. They're going to become like crystallized. Saturn is crystallizing things, and in Pisces, it's like crystallizing those dreams, and it becomes like a nice could have been ornament instead of like a trophy of accomplishment. So the Virgo season is asking each and every one of us to kind of recognize, where are we falling short in terms of the effort required to achieve our dreams and our goals, and to just kind of like take a ledger of what's going on there with that. Maybe you see this in relationships. Okay, this could be very well happening in relationships. Many people who kind of like, let me see, hold on, we're not there yet. Many people who are in relationships, or they're desiring loving, supportive relationships, but may not be willing to work on their own flaws or communication skills or making changes, and expecting and hoping and wishing, and maybe even to the point of becoming deluded that people are changing. Okay, this is like expecting other people to change is a big recipe for disaster, because what happens is that you end up resisting your own personal growth, because you're kind of like waiting for other people to change, and not only waiting but like expecting it, rather than knowing that it's going to happen in its own time, and it might not be in alignment with your time. So this is like Virgo wants all of us to kind of look at that and address the areas where we are not putting in the effort to be the best partner to ourselves, to others, the best friend, the best family member that you can be. Or we also can see it, you could say, in health. Virgo is very health conscious and wellness and healing. If you want to be healthy, you want to be fit, but you're not committing to the regular exercise, you're not committing to the proper nutrition or the proper mindset or the proper amount of sleep that you need, whatever works for you, and expecting to feel and to look good without making lifestyle changes, it's unrealistic. And you come into Virgo season with these issues, and it's going to urge you to confront these patterns and make the necessary adjustments. And this can even extend all the way into your personal growth, like your spiritual your spiritual growth, if you do it without a practice, for example, or without a teacher or a guide, the spiritual growth is desired by so many people, but it requires consistency. It requires that practice. And in able to really achieve any kind of spiritual insights that can change your life, that can seriously change your life, you have to dedicate time and effort to whatever your practice is. And this is another example of this kind of transit and this time that we need to commit to the practices that are going to foster real growth. Okay? So, very interesting, because if we stop doing that inner work, we will lose the outer work and we will lose our purpose. And this is the law within the reality of a spiritual aspirant. I love that show. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but it's on Apple Plus. It's called Severance. And it's one of like the most amazing creative shows that we've seen in a while. Like we've been waiting for like the next season to drop, but it's amazing because you see the split and the different, it's kind of like what I'm talking about here. I don't want to spoil it, but it's an amazing kind of companion to kind of like how we step into different identities and how we have these different tasks and these different identities. And it's just really interesting. Okay, so that's what that's about. And if we stop doing our inner work, we essentially lose our purpose. All right, so check it out, Severance. We also have a very interesting, powerful aspect between the sun. Okay, no, the sun is going to be making an opposition also to the planet Neptune, because Neptune is in a very critical degree in Pisces. So the whole Virgo season here, as the sun is traveling, it's going to be opposing not only Saturn, but also Neptune. All right, so this is going to kind of speak to the danger of losing touch with reality or kind of falling into illusions if the inner work is neglected. So, it's kind of like we don't want to look at what's going on. So, like, we cover our eyes and we pretend it's not happening. Neptune can represent spiritual ideals, also dreams and the subconscious. But when it's opposing the sun, there's a risk of becoming disconnected from reality. So, if you stop engaging in your inner work, that grounds your spiritual aspirations, you may find that I guess we could say, yeah, like your outer purpose will slip away as it becomes entangled in confusion or fantasy. Okay, so for an example, it could be like you might be really successful in your career, but if you start neglecting the inner work, like I was talking about earlier, that comes with material success, okay, even with growth, we're growing up from children to adolescents to adults and to seniors. It's like if you start to ignore that, of really staying true to your values and reflecting on what your purpose is or managing stress, you will begin to feel lost or delusioned. And you've seen it many times, okay? So the sun opposing Neptune is going to kind of amplify these feelings for us so that we can see where we stand with them, and then we can make changes so that, we can avert that. We can absolutely avert that. And it's amazing because it's going to lead us to kind of question, what is the meaning of our work? What is why are we doing it? What is it doing? Like, what service is it of to others? And it could be, we might be prone to daydreaming or to escape or to fantasize about a different life. So easy to do that as we're scrolling through the phones or whatever. It's like that's not taking practical steps to address any kind of dissatisfaction or lack that we have. It will just kind of grow the inner lack of clarity, which can result in poor decision making and kind of lead out to setbacks and burnouts. So we don't want that, because this transit is going to emphasize that clarity and purpose in the outer world are sustained by continuous, consistent inner work. At the same time, there can be a lot of confusion throughout this Virgo season, because there's that tendency with that Neptune opposing the sun the whole time. It's like, oh my gosh, okay? There could be a lot of escapism going on. In relationships, someone might stop doing the inner work of self awareness, communication, emotional honesty. And this, what does this lead to? Misunderstandings, unrealistic expectations. And so this transit is going to bring about kind of a, you could say, like a sense of confusion or idealization. We don't see the red flags. We don't address the issues directly, and this can lead us to disappointment, or even the like the ending of a relationship. Virgo's all about endings. The whole month is about endings, because we want to bring everything into completion before we hit the autumn equinox, when everything is getting rebooted, and kind of like the quantity of life is being determined on the autumn equinox, where on the spring equinox it's about the quality. The autumn is about the quantity. How many breaths are you going to take? How much money are you going to earn? How much time are you going to have? All these things are determined based on our actions, not based on just some like random thing. It's like based on our actions. So we want to stay connected to reality in our relationships. We don't want to be in fantasy land about things. And we can, we want to connect any kind of disconnection between our inner state of who we are and the reality of the relationship. And I know that's a big call. I know that's a really big call, because if we settle for less on this, we're going to lose intimacy with ourselves. We're going to lose the connection with the divine, because we're falling into too much compromise. And outside of relationships, once again, Virgo's health. If you are focused on achieving a certain physical goal, but you're neglecting the emotional stuff, the psychological factors that contribute to the overall well-being, okay, during the Sun Neptune opposition, which is all of Virgo season, you might start to feel a bit disillusioned about your efforts, and you don't see the progress that you've made, or you're not making progress where you should, or all kinds of things. We're so hard on ourselves with our progress, and it's so easy to just kind of like whitewash everything and be delusional and not really see what we're doing, and then we feel really like we're not doing anything good, and that's not very helpful. We don't want to neglect our physical goals and all the other things that contribute to that. Sometimes I help a lot of people with that, who are in what's called like a spiritual crisis. And these are times in our life, maybe you've experienced it, where you might be deeply involved in practices, okay? And you might not feel connected to them, or you might not really apply them. And Sun opposing Neptune, I've seen this many times, this brings this up. If you feel, if you feel like that, then chances are you've been neglecting your work, and you haven't really been grounding your spirituality in a material reality. It's like it's too much up here, and it's not really like being practiced. It's not being practiced in daily life. It's just being studied and theorized, and it sounds really good, but you're not really practicing it. And then what happens is that these people feel very disconnected from their spiritual path, and they might feel a little bit tempted, and I've seen this, to escape into fantasy or whatever it is, avoiding the hard truths and the inner work needed to maintain the integrity. And this can lead to a loss of direction. And that's the spiritual crisis. Like, I don't know where to go. I'm just running, or I'm swimming, and I don't know really where I'm going. And then everything kind of feels a bit hollow, or it feels kind of like a bit meaningless. And that's like, but it can be healed. It might bring it up, but it can be healed. I think another good example is with finances. If you have financial goals but neglect the inner work of understanding your relationship with money, such as what are emotional spending triggers, or what are your values around wealth and money. It's very interesting because the ego is the part of us that wants things for nothing. And we know from Ursula, you cannot get something for nothing, okay? Even if you think you are, you're paying some kind of price, all right? Someone who's wanting something for nothing, or without contributing, or without paying, it usually reflects some kind of entitlement or a desire to gain without putting in that effort. And it could be money, time, resources, whatever it is. And the attitude can manifest in all kinds of ways. We've all seen it. Expecting special treatment or free stuff, or like taking advantage of your generosity without there's all kinds of stuff that this can happen, but it's like, fair trade. And the behavior can really come from a place that, kind of like we are owed something, and that's just violating some laws that's not very productive, to what we're talking about here, especially wealth. So with the sun opposing Neptune, it's kind of like maybe becoming a little bit idealistic, aka disconnected from reality, like making very risky financial decisions based on wishful thinking rather than careful planning. So please, this whole season, be very mindful about like your investments and where they're coming from and where they're going, because this can lead to financial loss, causing us to kind of then question ourselves once again. All right. So Sun Neptune, it's happening the whole season. Now, also, we're going to have like a big reality split going on. And this is because the planet Mars is making a square to the planet Neptune. All right. So they are making an interesting square aspect. And this is about like our actions that take us into any reality where we have 1 foot in and then 1 foot out, and then we're split and we're confused. And I talked about this a little bit, but this transit is really going to trigger it. It's happening very intensely on September 3rd. Okay? So it can be like a situation where our actions are creating a very intense like confusion. It could be creating uncertainty and also unrealistic expectations. So this transit, it often leads to situations where we might feel split between the different directions. We're not really able to fully commit. So once again, it's like, okay, I'm going to do the inner work. I'm going to put my foot here, but then I also still have my foot or my hand in the material work or the material desires, because I don't entirely trust that my inner work is going to produce everything that I need. I still think that I need to like meddle and do things in the physical world or the material world, and that's more important. And that's because Virgo has a lot of emphasis on the material and the details, and it can get too much, it can get very stuck in those details. So what happens is with Mars square Neptune, we become very scattered. And then when we're scattered, we're ineffective. So just be very mindful, like if you are paying bills, but it's like with a job that doesn't really fulfill your deeper aspirations, and maybe you dream of pursuing a creative career, like you want to be a writer or an artist, but you're unsure if you can make it work financially or if you have the time with all of your other responsibilities. During the Mars Neptune square, you could start to take steps towards this dream, like I don't know, like starting a blog or a group or taking classes or whatever. But it's like half-hearted. It's half-hearted because there can still be the danger of clinging to the security of the material security, which we know doesn't last. Okay? And I'm not saying you have to abandon all your responsibilities. That's also not how it is. You just don't want to be scattered with these things. You have to be responsible, but you also have to take the risk. It's a very fine line. So, but the dangerous thing here is the indecision. The Mars Neptune it's like about this indecision that happens, and like I said, it gets really strong on September 3rd, leading up and then pulling away, and it can lead to a lack of progress in either direction, actually, like in any directions. And I'm going to talk how we are then creating and abiding by these different realities. It's going to be so important. It's probably like one of the most important things for Virgo season. But we will not excel in either direction because we're too ambiguous. The heart is not in it, and we're not really fully committed to the creative path, and it leaves us stuck and it leaves us confused. And we can see this in relationships. Again, we can see this in health. We can see this in our creative projects. We can see this in our finances. We can see this in our spiritual path also. Like if we're like feeling like the new age surfers, like we feel drawn to explore these different spiritual practices or these different spiritual lineages or philosophies, but the Mars Neptune is coming in there, and it's kind of like, well, I want to dabble in everything without fully committing to anything. And maybe I want to meditate one day, and then I want to do yoga, and then I want to do astrology, and then I want to do whatever, like the aura things, like all kinds of stuff. You guys probably know it all also. But if you do not truly integrate it into your life, if you don't metabolize it, Virgo is the metabolism. It's part of it because it's ruled by Mercury. It's that assimilation process. What is it going to lead to? It's going to lead to confusion. It's going to lead to disillusionment. Because if you don't ever really dive deep enough into one practice, you're not going to gain real insight. You're not going to access the blessing of the benefit. The actions are spread thin, and we don't want to do that. And this is going to split reality. So anywhere where we are half-hearted is going to split off, where we are not fully grounded. I mean, you have to imagine if you have 2 feet in 2 different kind of grounds, and then they both go away, where are you going to be? You're going to be lost. You're going to be lost. Okay, relationships also. You might be in a relationship where you're not entirely satisfied, but you stay because why? Because it's comfortable. Because you're afraid of being alone. At the same time, there's fantasies running about being with someone who better aligns with your ideals or who could bring more excitement or fulfillment. I'm telling you right now, Mars Neptune square, it's like there's going to be emotional, physical distance from yourself, okay? Like, and even from the partner. And this is going to be like, okay, there could be, on one hand, the physical distance from self and the partner, and on the other side, exploring other relationships, but in like a secretive way. And this is creating a situation where you're not fully committed to the current relationship, but you're also not really fully pursuing a new one. And this leads to a split reality. So we're going to see it like, all the confusion and dissatisfaction, all that's involved. So what can we do about that? Well, I've been saying it. Commit, get grounded. Okay, that's like so important because the Mars and square Neptune is creating a very challenging dynamic where actions are misaligned with reality. You understand? Because it's leading to situations where we are caught between the conflicting desires or the conflicting paths. And so the transit can cause us to kind of be split in different realities, leaving us confused and ineffective. And the key to overcoming this is to recognize that need for clarity. And, if you can't do it, then just use some clarity blend. help you transcend the stars there. And of course, Virgo blend is going to help with all of this stuff as well. So just smell it, keep it in the aroma lamp, spray it, like, all very helpful for this, for like what's going on this season. Clarity, commitment, groundedness. That's going to ground that energy of Neptune that makes it, it's making things seem more difficult than they are, and they're not. All right. We have so much Neptune going on here. It's intense. We also have Venus opposing Neptune. And that's like, as Venus is like going through Virgo, it's going to like really be intense the end of August. All right. So, wow. That's kind of like, this is about the laws, the desires in our world, and the work that we have to do to fulfill these laws, and the consequences and the things that we create from them. So there are many different laws in our world, and essentially whatever you subscribe to is going to work for you. All right. So these laws, they work. So whatever you follow are the laws that are going to work for you. And this answers the age-old question, like, which system is right? That eliminates the question, because whatever system you use is going to work. All right. I'm not saying they're all equal in power, but they do work. That's one of the laws of this world, is like, you have a system, you work it, it's going to work. That's why there's many different languages. That's why there's many different ways to cook the same dish. Okay, it works. Some techniques are better than others, more efficient, but that's another day. Every system has consequences or creations. And and that's the fundamental truth here, that our actions, whether internal or external, they are shaping our reality. They're shaping our reality. So when we align ourselves with these universal laws, whether through material effort, inner work, or ideally both, we either create fulfilling outcomes or encounter consequences that serve as lessons to kind of bring us back onto the path. All right. So we have creations or consequences. Very, very, very interesting, because if we like basically the difference is, a consequence is when we are abiding by a law that is like ego based, and a creation is when we are aligned and we're abiding by a law that's kind of like manifesting a creation. All right. So Venus opposing Neptune is that time when we are seeing the law and how, or like, and the actions have these consequences, or we have creations. So we have to be a little bit aware of being seduced by illusions and fantasies, whether in love, finance, our self-image, even in the spiritual realms, or let's call it industries. Without doing the necessary work to ground these desires in reality. Remember, that's what this is about. The ego does not like to hear about, its propensity for entitlement and getting something for nothing. Our desire, like our effort, will determine whether it's a consequence or a creation. So our desire is going to always take us where we want to go, good or bad, for better or worse. But if you recognize that need for clarity and honesty and discipline during this transit, you can transform these challenges into opportunities for growth and create something meaningful and lasting in your life. Because once again, whatever you subscribe to is where you are going to go. So if you are consistent with your material work, for example, if you are a student and you're studying for months, consistently putting in the effort to understand the material, going to the classes, completing the assignments, seeking help, You're following that law of effort and consistency, and it is going to help you to pass with high grades. And that's going to be a creation, like a very reciprocated fulfillment of your academic or whatever your goals are. The creation here is the success and a sense of achievement. If the same student is rather cramming the night before an exam, neglecting the regular studies, relying on luck rather than consistent effort, the consequence is going to be, for example, failing, which serves as a lesson that shortcuts and lack of preparation lead to poor outcomes. And there could be the learning opportunity that consistent effort is necessary to achieve success. So if you know how to use the laws, you can have great success. But if you are like going by these laws of I can do whatever I want, and well, you're going to have some consequences that are going to you're going to have enough consequences until you learn how to create. Creating is like people say that they know how to create, but they really don't. It's really takes a lot of refinement, which is, good old Virgo. So we have to be very mindful of this. Like, if you run a business and you're not being, or if you run a business and you're not being fair or you're cutting corners, that's going to lead to kind of like lawsuits and tarnished reputations and strikes. That's a consequence, like a collapse of business. But if you're running your company with fairness and honesty and you're doing the inner work and you're aligning, then you can have the creation of a thriving business that's built, listen to me, on trust and integrity. Okay? Very important to understand that. So the point is like the creations are the goals that are resulting in from alignment with the divine. It has fulfillment. It's the consistent work. And it's also aligning with systems that are not ego, like not quick ego schemes. It's like it really requires a lot of consistency to be harmoniously successful. And the consequences are the ego's way of following those other laws or following even laws in an ego way, and they are corrections that we have to still, like, they're growth opportunities, like for us to push us back to recognize like that we've gone off track or that we're taking shortcuts, and it will guide us back into alignment with the divine laws. And once again, you cannot have like a mixed approach. It's like it's I'm sorry, you need to have a balanced approach. So if you're only material focused, you can achieve success by doing the material work alone, and you will be very successful. You don't put any work into your spiritual process, being honest. You're just putting in the effort, being consistent, focusing on your goals. It is going to work, but you'll eventually hit a block, like I said in the beginning of the class. If you are doing inner work only, and if you're focusing, like you're navel gazing and you're not really doing the outer work, you're not going to get anywhere in the material reality. So you need the balance of the two. This is the most powerful. And sometimes you might have to go in for a while and sometimes you might have to go out for a while, but you always have to keep both in gear. Okay? Very important. That's very important to understand that. Okay? So it's about grounding the desires, the integrity, the alignment, and the reciprocation and the clarity and the intention. All right. So you guys, this is really like this whole month of Virgo is about the pursuit of perfection and understanding that can be a trap leading to fixation on the material world. But the true fulfillment comes from aligning both the inner and the outer work. So the lesson is that expecting results without putting in the necessary effort leads to a loss of purpose and direction. And this reality is like a dark one. All right. So we want to find the purpose. We want to put in the effort, whatever the goals are, whatever it is that you want, put in the effort. Don't be lazy. I think this is like what I want to say. Like, if you do it, the Virgo is going to love it, and it's going to make it happen step by step. Each step builds upon the last, and it reinforces the balance between the inner and the outer. And whatever your fears are, whatever your worries are, just commit, be consistent, because the consequences of inaction are like, they're not worth it. They're not worth it. You can be still, but that's not the same thing as inaction. So we want to be structured and align with these core transits and teachings that are coming here with the Virgo. And now we are going to get into the meditation where we're going to be doing some healing, because this was a lot of information and we need to ground this energy, like like it's like a firmware upgrade. We have to put it into our being. Virgo is ruling over like the digestive system, your quadriceps, your abs, and it has a lot of ways that it's kind of healing the chromosomes. So we're going to do a nice healing meditation to integrate all of this information, and then you're going to project the light out and what you want to see throughout the whole month of Virgo ahead. And then you're going to be healing all these things within you that are ruled by Virgo as well. But before we're going to do that, we have to figure out a few steps, which we're going to do in another video. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful season.